everyone, you're welcome to this week's Business and Investment Tips program, a production of RCCG Christ Church Radio with Ayodeji Ebo, an investment professional. This week, we focus on the Nigeria Startup Act 2022 and its implications. To build on the strong growth in the tech industry, President Buhari recently signed a much-awaited startup bill into law after its initial launch in May 2021. The bill, which is now an act, aims to regulate the establishment of operations of startups and to support young companies with an enabling environment for growth and investments. The act should help remove barriers that pose serious operational challenges for startups in Nigeria. Provisions for tax breaks and incentives to attract foreign capital, as well as access to local funding opportunities, including a 10 billion naira fund from the federal government, are all expected to be implemented to support the sector. Some major highlights of the act include: 1. Startup labeling. For a company to be titled a startup, it must be a registered limited liability company that has been in existence for no more than 10 years. In addition, at least 51% of its shares must be held by one or more Nigerians. Only then can it obtain a certificate known as the startup label. 2. Seed funding. The Act also established a startup investment seed fund which offers startups early stage financing as well as reliefs for tech laboratories, accelerators, and incubators. The fund is to be managed by the Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority. Seed funding is the funding of businesses at its earlier stage in their life cycle. 3. Tax incentives. Various tax incentives and reliefs were introduced for startups and investors. For startups, provisions were made for personal income tax exemptions of 35% for 2 years, and they can apply under the Pioneer Status Investment Scheme for the grant of tax reliefs and incentives. In the case of investors, they are entitled to an investment tax credit equivalent to 30% of the investment in labeled startups, amongst others. 4. Regulatory support. The Act improves regulatory support for startups as it provides for collaborations with regulatory bodies to ease processes for labeled startups. The provision for regulatory support applies to bodies like Corporate Affairs Commission, Central Bank of Nigeria, Nigerian Exchange Limited, and others. 5. Accelerator and incubator programs. The Act also includes accelerator and incubator programs that broaden the startup ecosystem. These programs typically provide access to the resources needed to launch and operate, which include provision of workspaces, seed funding, mentoring, and even trainings. 6. Capacity building. The Act established a program that will improve talent development and training within the Nigerian startup ecosystem. It often offers support to academic research centers that focus on startup growth. While the Act was silent on the collaborations within the startup ecosystem, such as those between fintechs and traditional banks, that could drive up financial inclusion, it is nevertheless a welcome development towards the growing tech sector. However, we believe that the development and viability of these startups will be constrained if the underlying infrastructural issues like power, good road network, and internet connectivity are not resolved. Thank you for listening. Please join us same time next week for another interesting and insightful session. For comments and feedback, kindly forward to ebo.ayodeji@gmail.com or send an SMS to 07082463747. Stay blessed.